Hi guys, welcome back to CJ's Keto Kitchen. Tonight we are going to be making another casserole, of course, although I'm calling this one a bake, but it's basically the same thing. And it is going to be cheesy pesto chicken bake. So come along with me and let's get started. Utilize vegetables and things that are growing in our early autumn garden, like tomatoes, basil, things like that. And this is a very easy dish. It only has a couple of ingredients, and it has a very short assembly process, so you can get it into the oven quickly and on the table just as quickly. So let's go ahead and get started. So one of the first things that you need to do is, because this is a bake, it is going to go into the oven, and so you need to preheat your oven to 375 degrees. So in my skillet, I have 2 pounds of chicken thighs that I have already seared. As you'll see in the clip before that, searing is just simply browning it on both sides. And the reason that I like to do this is because it creates what is called the Maillard effect. And the Maillard effect was originated by a French chemist in 1912. And he found that when you brown things, it releases an amino acid that causes caramelization, and it intensifies the flavors of foods that you're browning. You can think about it like when you toast a marshmallow. It's a similar effect. It brings out the richness of foods. So you could do this particular bake without browning your meat, but I definitely recommend taking this extra step. If you do not have chicken thighs, you could also use chicken breasts, but keep in mind that it will be a lot drier and you might have to cut them down in thickness in order for them to bake in the amount of time that we are going to be doing it tonight. So I have 2.5 pounds of seared, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. So you are going to need a regular sized casserole dish. Mine is 9 by 13, and you just need it to be large enough to accommodate your 2 pounds of chicken meat. And I have just greased mine a little bit with some avocado oil spray. Our pesto, because it has an olive oil base, is going to provide adequate non-sticking properties, but I just do it as a matter of course. So I'm going to begin laying my thighs into my baking dish. And these are not fully cooked, which is exactly what we wanted. We simply seared them on both sides to give them that browning effect. So it doesn't matter that they are not fully cooked. Okay, so we have our chicken into our baking dish. Next, we are going to make up the wonderful seasonings that we are going to be putting onto this chicken in the form of pesto, and that's how it gets its name, cheesy pesto chicken bake. So we're just going to kind of set this aside for a minute. Okay, in a bowl, I have 1 8-ounce brick of softened cream cheese. I have used Philadelphia brand in this step. I find that it has the best macros as far as carb count goes. So sometimes you do want to spring for the actual name brand, in this case especially. And it is softened. You can either let it sit out or you could put it into the microwave for a few seconds, but you do want it to be soft because we are going to be adding our pesto to the cream cheese. So speaking of pesto, that is what I have here. Pesto is generally a product of Italy if you get one that is well made, and this one is. Mine was found in the refrigerated section, and that is what I recommend. Of course, you can use jarred products that are on the shelf and are shelf stable. That is fine as well, but it is a lot nicer if you can get a product that has been refrigerated, and then you will refrigerate it again after it's been opened. But what I really enjoyed about this particular one is that the total carbohydrates is 1 and the fiber is 1, so it's almost like nothing, which is wonderful. So what pesto is traditionally it is basil and some type of nut. Sometimes it's pine nuts, sometimes it's walnuts, but they're generally roasted. And then they're all blended together with garlic and olive oil to make a type of sauce, and it's nice and strongly Italian flavored, and that is what we're looking for our chicken, because our chicken doesn't have much taste, and so we're going to be infusing it with the fresh taste of basil. So I want about half of this jar. That's about 1/3 of a cup. I'm going to give this a stir because you can see that it is quite liquidy, because as with most olive-based vinaigrettes and marinade, just like peanut butter in its natural state, all the oil will rise to the top of the jar when it has been left to sit. So I'm giving it a good stir, and then I'm putting about half of this jar in, which will be about 1/3 of a cup. Okay, I'm just going to give this a stir into my softened cream cheese. Okay, so we have thoroughly combined our basil pesto into our cream cheese. So now all we are going to do is put it onto our already seared, prepared chicken thighs. We're just going to try and do this as evenly as possible. And you just want to make sure that they're well coated. Some of your thighs are probably bigger than others, just like with human beings. Okay, all of our chicken is coated now with our cream cheese and pesto blend. Now we are going to put a little bit of regular cheese on this and put it in the oven to bake. And then we will be garnishing it with some fresh ingredients after it comes out of the oven and cools. So on top of this, we are going to be adding about 1 cup of cheese, and you can use whatever kind of cheese you would like. You could also use more than 1 cup if you preferred. I'm going to be using mozzarella because it's a white cheese and I like how stringy it gets, but any kind of cheese would be delicious here. You could use an Italian blend that has Parmesan and other things in it, but I do want kind of a baked cheese look for this, and that's why I'm going to be using mozzarella, almost like the top of a pizza. I'm going to slightly press this down, just a little bit. And we want to just try and make sure that our cream cheese layer has cheese pressed into it. So there is our bake ready to bake. And so it's going to go into our 375-degree oven that we've already preheated. And we are going to bake this for starting at 30 minutes. Of course, it's going to depend on what type of meat you're using, if you're using a breast, if you're using thighs, etc. And if you decide that you needed to use more than the 2 pounds if your family is larger. That will all determine your baking time. But I'm going to do mine at 375 for 30 minutes and then check on it. So while our pesto bake is in the oven cooking, I want to talk about what we are going to use to garnish it after it has come out of the oven and cooled down. So the first thing that I'm going to be using is a little bit of fresh basil leaf, and I just found mine in the grocery store. Usually with the prepared salad dressings and etc. they'll have fresh herbs. If you're fortunate enough to have grown basil, this would be so awesome. Also, they do make live basil plants that you can keep in your refrigerator for an extended period of time. If you really enjoy these Italian flavors, then you might want something like that. But you're going to need about between 4 to 6 leaves of basil, depending on how much you like it. And I'm just going to put the leaves together and kind of roll them up like a cigar. And then I'm going to chiffonade them, which just means I'm going to cut them into little ribbons. So if you can see this, I'm rolling it into a little bundle. And then I'm just going to take my knife and I'm just going to cut it into confetti, basically. Basil confetti. So then, when we undo it, it's in little ribbons of basil. So here I have some cherry tomatoes. Once again, if you're fortunate enough to have a good harvest this year of tomatoes, ours are kind of struggling. We have gotten a few off, and let me tell you, there is a huge difference between store-bought tomatoes and tomatoes that come out of your garden. The ones that come out of your garden are generally not quite so perfect looking, but they taste way better. But I have what I can find nonetheless. And so you want about a half a cup of diced cherry tomatoes. You wouldn't have to use cherry. You could use regular tomatoes, grape tomatoes, yellow tomatoes, whatever you have. But I'm going to be cutting mine quite small. Tomatoes can be, you know, fairly carby. And so, you know, if you can use cut up tomatoes as small as possible to still give you that fresh end of summer, early autumn taste, that's ideal here. Ready to come out. And I did indeed cook mine for 30 minutes, but the last 2 minutes of the cooking time I put my broiler on just to give that nice brown to the cheese. So I'm just going to let this sit here for a few minutes and cool off a bit, and then we will garnish it with our other toppings, and we will let CJ have a taste. Hi CJ.
Hi.
Welcome to another delicious Italian dish.
Yep, I'm ready to eat.
This is cheesy pesto chicken bake. And look at that, it's the color of the Italian flag.
Wow, amazing.
I know.
It does look cheesy. Sure. Yeah, it's really good.
Good.
Tasty. Doesn't need anything.
Good.
Plenty of salty. I wonder if that came from the
Mozzarella.
mozzarella.
Or it could be from the pesto as well.
The pesto
yeah.
too. Yeah, it's plenty salty.
Good.
I know you didn't add salt, so yeah, good flavor. It was simple to make and quick.
Yep.
So I think people will like it. Good
Good.
job, baby. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us again tonight, you guys. We hope that you enjoy the chicken bake as much as we are going to. And hopefully it will help you utilize some of the beautiful vegetation from late summer, early autumn. We hope that you will consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that you know when we upload new content. We upload twice a week. On Wednesdays, we have keto conversations. Sometimes we have ketogenic food unboxings, and sometimes we talk about what we're eating on this lifestyle. Then on Sundays is when we put up our new recipes. Sometimes they're savory and sometimes they're sweet. And you definitely want to hit the bell so you know when that happens. If you need any information for this particular recipe or any of the other recipes that we have already made, all of that is on our blog, and that is Cjsketokitchen.com. And there we have all the ingredients, the macros, also tips and tricks I learned while making this recipe, and also CJ's taste test follow-up. So definitely head over there. We are on social media as well, and we would love to have you join us there. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and that's Cjsketokitchen. And there we post recipes that we have already made, ones that we are planning on making, and the people who follow us there also post their photographs and thoughts on our recipes as well. So definitely check us out. We hope that you'll come back and see us again, and until that time, be safe and well.